Hello everyone, Simon here with a review of Moonfall. Moonfall is a mixture of roguelike elements and turn-based tactical RPG elements, but really in the broad stroke sense of those terms. It's a much more pared down and simplified version of them both, and it's designed so that you can have quick playthroughs of a game to provide you with incremental increases of challenge that then become really stacked up against you as the odds continue to not go in your favour. It's a single player experience and it's available on PC. The game of Moonfall always starts off with providing you with a faction of 4 different characters or travellers that you're going to try and get through to the valley. Those numbers may increase as you get across refugee camps to pick up more people, or it may decrease as your party members fall by the wayside and die through your actions. Every turn is allowing you to move one of your characters to a new location in an ever-moving map forward of spaces. They will always be in rows of 3, and you'll be able to see a certain amount of steps in front of you. And whenever you move a character, all of your party then moves forward 1 space. The issue with that is that different characters have different abilities, and depending on what they can do, that can either help you, hinder you, or you could be moving into a trap, and if you don't have the required equipment to get through, that will damage your character. Characters usually start off with only 3 hit points, and if they lose all of their hit points, they will drop by the wayside, and once all of your characters drop by the wayside, it is game over. Have I ever got to the valley? No. But it hasn't stopped me from trying, and that's what I want to say about Moonfall, is that it's a very simplistic pared down experience, which initially you're kind of like, oh well, I'll just keep on getting people into a line and moving people out of the way of objects as I go. Very quickly, after a couple of levels of that though, the difficulty starts to increase, and whilst it never fully engages you and you're like, panic, you're always kind of mindful of what's coming down in front of you, because you're going to run into problems that's going to decimate your team. There are 6 different classes of travellers that you've got as you move through the game. There is like a cleric that if you swap their position with someone else before you move forward, allows them to heal the other person 1 hit point. Invaluable. The most valuable two that I found in terms of classes was the shield person that you can stick up front, because they're able to get through these like shards of fire and nullify them, which often clears a path for you to then try and fit some of your people through. And the other class is like the gatherer type of class, and they're able to pick up all different things to stick in your inventory. That can be sticks, that can be cogs, that can be crystal shards, although crystal shards will automatically damage your character as well if they don't have the right equipment. So it's always a bit of a risk versus reward. But remember, you can only move 1 character 1 space per turn, and then they all move forward. So you're having to always plan ahead, make sure that you don't fence in the characters that you need to move around, and kind of go from there. When you then get to the end of a level, there'll then be an event of sorts that will happen. It could be that you hit a refugee camp and you're able to recruit a new person in. It could be that you've hit a travelling merchant and you can be able to trade some of the inventory stuff you picked up along the way for something a bit more valuable that you could use. It could be an ancient temple that gives you some new abilities to craft new objects from some of the things you found along the way. And then after that, you will settle into your night camp. Your night camp can be upgraded so that you can have an infirmary, so that you can get someone in to heal a hit point. It could be that you send a scout up on ahead so that you can plot out and see what's coming further down the road, and that gives you a bit more insight to the next level as well. Or it could be that you put your craftsman on the craft table once it's built, so that you can then craft double the amount of helps and supply objects that you can then carry forward to the next event. What I really liked about Moonfall was that initially I was like, 4 people, I'm fine, that's enough. And then what happened was that I then got greedy and I had a 5th person and a 6th person. And what I found was that because you've only got 9 spaces to move around, If you start getting a really chonky party and you're like, haha, I've got one of everyone, invariably you start moving people into places that they're just getting hit and pulled apart, and then they start dying. And if you get the wrong people to die, it really detrimentally hurts your party and your ability to proceed. And so a lot of my games kind of fell flat, and I died because I got greedy and had too many people in my team, and then I couldn't move people out of the way of harm's way quick enough. What that was really helpful was that if I was able to get 2 gatherers, they were able to get enough resources, and then I'd have a craftsperson go in and then get enough people in to try and get the resources to cover that amount of people. But yeah, it becomes a real balancing act of actually, do I need to shed a traveller or 2 and make that difficult decision? Games are apparently supposed to take between 2 to 5 hours, depending on your experience with the game. I have yet to get to the end, and looking at the Steam achievements, only 1 in 5 people have so far. So there's clearly a lot of challenge there. What I would say though is that it is really down to, and it reminds me of Tharsis in a way. If you get a really juicy loadout, I think you'd be okay and you'd be able to take on what's coming your way. But as soon as that loadout gets disturbed, you fall flat really quickly and everything just unravels. So it's like a pack of cards. When one goes, the whole lot tumbles. I like the fact as well that each run through is procedurally generated, not just on a level basis, but your entire map to get to the valley also is different as well. So it's worthwhile noting that does change as you go through stuff. The only thing that I do have as a downside for Moonfall is that it hints at all of this lore and all of this rich world that's going on around you, but there isn't really anything here. All it does is it gives you new origin cities so that you have a new original layout to start with, but it just comes from a picture and a paragraph of words. Same as when you craft recipes or there's a codex for you to uncover new things. It just hints at something that could have been quite juicy under the surface, and I'd have loved there to have been more lore or some kind of story that could unlock as it goes through. Even if that was procedurally generated like chunks of things, it would have made you going further having a lot more carrot instead of the stick of survival, if that makes sense. Because whilst the game mechanics here are perfectly fine and very simplistic and easy to understand and get into, I don't feel like the end result always kind of makes it worth the pain unless you are into that challenge. Now thankfully for me with Moonfall, I was into that challenge and it got me invested because I wanted to survive, but you don't get any kind of lore on any of your characters, so therefore they don't mean anything. It's more about, you don't see the person, you see the skill, and so you're like, I need my gatherer over there because they're more important than my scout, for example. So therefore the scout takes all the hits and then they die, and then you're like, fine, that's all right, I'll get a cleric next time. So you're just kind of moving around on the skills, and that's a bit of a shame. Whereas other games that are in this similar vein and style, I think are much more impactful when you're making decisions based on characters that you want to keep around. Think of XCOM, for example. I know this game isn't going to be rivaling XCOM for that type of emotional nuance, but you start to project onto characters and things like that, and there's no ability to do any of that here. And that's really the only downside that I have for Moonfall. Other than that, if you're looking for a cheap but satisfying and interesting and intriguing merger of roguelites and tactical RPG elements, I would say, because it's not really one or the other, Moonfall could well be something for you. It's out now, and a written review will be over on higherplayinggames.com in the very near future. Take care all. Bye bye. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a collection of media projects ran by me. If you like what you see and want to find out more, visit patreon.com/higherplane network. Your support can make so much more possible, be that a like, a comment, a share, or a pledge. Thanks for watching.